Vibrational Medicine is a podcast to bring awareness to the various natural wellness practices and treatments available. I am your host, Ash Neumeister, and these conversations are born out of my curiosity to learn more about the technologies available to us to stay in our optimal, vital, healthy, and natural state for our entire life, regardless of aging and all of the challenges of living in our modern day world. We will discuss topics covering how to stay healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Let's take a moment for one deep breath and then enjoy the conversation. Hello, and welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about how you can be your own medicine. On today's episode, I had a chat with my friend Lynda Arnold, and she has a unique story as a sound healer. She started as a classically trained musician, and she's an amazing flute player and plays all kinds of instruments. And, over time became more curious about using sound for healing. And we get into various different topics about what that transition was like, as well as, where musicians can begin to be more intentional with the sounds that they're creating and really use the music and sounds for healing and for the benefit of all those that listen to it. We also talk about how we believe that, it should be more common that we all can use our voice as a sound healing instrument, and we get into some practices that you can learn and begin to do that now throughout your day. It really is one of the untapped resources I feel that we have, our own voice, learning how to do things throughout the day to really create more peace and tranquility and learn how to transmute energy. Lynda mentions, that using our voice as a way of turning our energy and making it audible. And so you can work with that energy in your body to move it and shift it in an instant. We can all do that with something as simple as just taking a sigh, deep breath in and sighing it out. And it really is powerful. It will impact your life overall if you create these moments of practice as often as you can throughout the day. Sound healing is a topic that I am super passionate about, and so if this does pique your curiosity or you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, and if I don't know the answer, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation and learn a little something, and if you do, please share it with your family and friends. I really appreciate your support in getting the word out. All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibrational Medicine with Ash. And if you're watching on the video version, this is a big moment. I'm actually interviewing Lynda in person. First time doing that. So excited about that. And really excited to have Lynda Arnold on today. We're going to be diving deep into sound. And as those of you that have been listening to this podcast know, that's one of my deepest passions and love talking about this topic. So super happy to have you.
Thank you for having me here.
Excited it's finally happening.
Yes, yes.
And actually, since we originally wanted to do the podcast, we've been able to actually collaborate since that time and with Sonic Devas. So I feel like this is perfect timing to be just dropping in deeper with this whole sound.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't think your listeners know who what Sonic Devas is. So,
I'd love for you to share.
So Sonic Devas is it's our divine feminine sound healing orchestra that we created. Put together originally at Bhakti and Shakti Fest to give a platform for collaboration with women and sound healers and musicians, and to bring it all together. I think the biggest thing is just the collaborative aspect is what really is just so needed in the community. I think we have so much individual branding and individual artistry happening, and that's beautiful. But when we can bring together people for common performance, it's just it's very special.
Yeah, for sure. It has been for me too, because it's the first time that I really collaborated with, well, a lot of women. It's like sometimes there's 13 of us. What's the
Yeah.
most we've had?
I think most we've had is 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like having fun with bringing all of our various instruments
Mhm.
and songs and voices together in a way, and then you being able to tie it all together and us really collaborating and sharing the power of sound in a
Yep.
unique, very unique way. I think I don't really know of many other people that are doing that. If there's any, I don't know. But yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
Just really practicing our ability to collaborate in a way like in that,
Yes.
which is great skill in all parts of life,
Well,
outside of
sure.
that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And making sure everyone's talent, unique vibe is heard in their strongest way through that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but then always coming back to the collective singing, the collective playing together, the listening to each other, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of what we do with sound healing is that there's the buzz phrase is deep listening, right? We
Mm-hmm.
really listen to each other. We play off of each other. It's a conversation without words, besides
Mm-hmm.
the words that we sing, but really tuning in, and music, just being a part of the making of the music. It's a skill that deep listening skill comes through that, and then branches out into all aspects of like life and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with people, and
Yeah.
the whole kit and caboodle, right? If we
Right.
really know how to tune into each other and communicate and hold space, for something larger than ourselves, there's a movement behind that. It's very, very strong. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
ripples out in the community. That's what I found. I mean, it's all been like a leap of faith for me,
Mm-hmm.
and an experiment, as all my art has been. And I feel like there's just a delicious potency behind like what is formed here, and the
Yeah.
potential of it
Mm-hmm.
for more people to be involved and to share their gifts. And that's
Right.
why we're here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'd love to actually dive a little bit deeper into your story.
Sure.
And we were talking a bit before we started recording about how you really started as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious about, well, maybe even like taking it earlier than that, like what brought you into music in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then that transition for you into the sound healing space.
Sure. I mean, I've been wanting to express myself in the arts as long as I can remember. So I was like 3, 4 years old, going to dance lessons and asking my parents for piano lessons when I was 6. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was already this desire to jump in head first as, a kid. And so I took piano lessons, took flute lessons. I studied classically all through college. And so I got that like base, like the foundation of musicianship, like very, very strong musicianship. And but through the classical music world, it's very, very hard. There's always something missing for me there. There was always this like but there's a music inside, and that's not being honored, or how do I create that? I
Yeah.
am hearing something. This is something beyond the training and learning other people's music, right? And so it sort of led to me starting to compose and write, and I went to recording school, so I got the technical side of things, and then just experimented and started to write, and produce my own stuff and learn music technology and
Mm-hmm.
become a singer. So I wasn't singing before, and I started songwriting and tapping into that important piece of the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
loving myself, loving my voice, and expressing through that. And then throughout my 20s, went through a, just a very lots of waves up and down as artists go through, like
Right.
just making albums and touring, and there's something missing. I love psychology. I loved to connect with people, and I know that for me, every time I wrote something, it would be like very healing for me. If I wrote a song or a composition, you kind of feel it like in your soul. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their soul sound, their soul music, and finding a way to express that. And so that around 2930 is when I found this sound healing program. It's a certificate program by Sylvia Nakach, Sound, Voice, and Music Healing up in San Francisco. Year-long program featuring all these incredible teachers, like from sound healing to meditation, qigong. I mean, we did it all. Improvisation, music improvisation, and it changed my life jumping into that. So it was around the time when I just needed to shift. You know, I was kind of burnt out from the way I've been doing it. Something's kind of missing, and this was it. It definitely integrated a part of myself that, you know, I always loved new age and ambient music, and as well as electronic stuff, but the sound healing aspect and the aspect of the deep listening with the chanting, the Sanskrit, and even approaching instrumentation in this different way, like completely changed my whole path. And it became quite an obsession. So then I couldn't go. It was like this sense of like when you learn something that you can't ever go back. Like it changes you so much, and that's what this program did for me. And it made my voice even more embodied and stronger through like devotional singing techniques and vocal toning and all the things that we were doing, you know, through the ragas and medicine songs and things like that Sylvia would bring in. And so I knew that I was on a different path. And even though I was doing other compositional projects and just still doing my music stuff in general, that was going to weave in more heavily from then on. So then coming down here 5 years ago, it's really the first thing that I felt how I wanted to enter into the community was through the sound healing and the meditation and the wellness. And I knew I'd meet great people through that channel, you know, and that's what's happened, is that, you know, I am able to combine now my musicianship and all of my experience, and then also bring in the sound piece and experiment with how those all can weave together, you know, and blossom.
Right.
You know, for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of the people involved. It's a very, very interesting space to be working on now.
Yeah.
And exploring.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that, you know, your style of sound healing is very unique because of your background. You know, like you play the flute and you have all of this other classical training, and I think that that's such a beautiful thing to be able to merge what you're saying, you know, like taking the, you know, whatever music that you learned through your earlier training and thinking about it in a different way, like with the intention of like, how can I create healing with this?
Yes.
You know, and writing songs with that intention in mind from the beginning, you know, which I work with a lot of musicians in my other job, and I will drop little nuggets sometimes, you know, to musicians of like, you know, about tunings, you know, like the 432 hertz, and, you know, most music is tuned to 440, and different producers that work with musicians, and just like asking them, have you ever thought about how these frequencies that you're creating and putting out in the world in these songs are affecting the people that are hearing them, you know, like on a physical level, for example.
Right.
And they're like, no, you know, and so it's this, I feel like there's such an opportunity for the worlds to merge, like you have already done, you know, in your own life, and with musicians just being a little bit more intentional with the sounds that they're creating.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like that could be a whole new world. I saw, actually, I think it was our friend Torcom that posted something about like Kanye West recently discovered like 432 hertz.
Yes, yeah. Well, he's found Jesus, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that was what I read this week. Kanye West has found Jesus, and but he's doing. I mean, look, he's doing something really interesting, and I see this sometimes. You know, famous artists who have like, they have their breakdown or their pivotal evolution moment, and then they go into like sacred music in whatever way that it speaks to them. And so what I've loved about the Kanye evolution is like, he's doing these huge church services with incredible music, incredible singing arrangement. Like, he's bringing, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos. I don't know what he calls it. I think, and they also did this like where they did a flash mob at Coachella, where they just went up on a hill and did their thing,
Mm-hmm.
away from the stages, like it.
Oh, wow.
So I'm seeing a very cool, that gives me a lot of encouragement and hope, because someone with that amount of influence and pull, bringing, sacred music into a space, bringing people together in a devotional way, in his way.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a lot more R&B and gospel influence. And looks like he has a musical director.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's very positive. Right. But again, like, yeah, that's music for healing.
Yeah.
Like using it as a vehicle, to collectively create community, with us always being behind our phones and stuff, right?
Yeah.
We need that more than ever,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need the people that are going to merge and combine,
Yeah.
to like really help the community grow,
mm-hmm.
and evolve.
Yeah, and I mean, music is such a great tool for bringing any sort of healing or education, even, or, all of these things that we need on the planet right now, like this massive shift that is happening. And so people that have like huge followings like Kanye, it's like, yes, like, please do this.
Yeah.
And
yes.
so it's, yeah, I'm more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I like this whole medicine music movement.
Yeah.
It's like we had new age music for a long time. It's always been there, like this thread. But what's happening now through sound healing meditation and all these instruments that are being composed or invented and combined, into creating some new sounds, but just evolving the new age movement into something that is just like not like this niche,
right.
Everybody kind of like, oh yeah, new age music, like
yeah.
it's not cool, but we got to make it kind of cool, to have sound healing and this type of meditative music evolve into something that's more universal. And so people, more people are involved, not only in going to concerts but also in becoming musicians themselves, and exploring sound themselves, which is a lot of what like we do. Is the teaching, like teaching toning, teaching vocal toning, breath work, the stuff that you do. You're teaching these practices that are like the prerequisites for entering into the sound world. And loving the sound that you make.
I'd love for you to speak more about that, like what you teach with your private clients and your group sessions, and like what that's like for people, and even sharing, how that can also impact your life overall outside of those kinds of just the one-on-one sessions.
Sure. Yeah, I do a bunch of things. Like for private sessions, I do straight up like sound healing, relaxation sessions with Tibetan bowls and different acoustic instruments and toning. And then I have a lot of clients that come just for vocal training. So, but I've really evolved my, vocal training into the more devotional music, meditative vocal space. So I do a lot of the call and response singing, the breath work exercises, scanning the voice, kind of getting into the proper way to breathe, some of that vocal technique, but then just like singing a lot, singing long tones, singing different vowels, singing, going into some mantra and chanting, so that like you're just using your voice. That's really where it's at. It's not to bombard people with like, oh, I can't sing, I've always been a terrible singer. And that's the programming a lot of people have. And it's just undoing that by entering in very, very slowly. Like, we're just going to hum for 5 minutes. So you can actually get used to making sound without judgment. And then depending on what people require, then we can go to the piano and do scales and do the traditional stuff to like exercise the voice and to connect the different parts of the head and the chest, throat, voice, and create some continuity in there. And so there are things that are beneficial for people traditional wise, training wise. But really it's like it's about feeling comfortable with the sound that you make. That's what I do a lot with people. Besides just straight up, like, there is some musical training. I've had like thousands of private music students over the past 20 years. I'm just used to working with the beginner's mind and with the people who are excited about music, giving them structure, understanding about theory if they want, all that stuff. And then also with others if they want to just take an improvisational and more loose approach, more open approach to what, on the wellness angle, then I can tailor, to that. So with the privates, it's really depending on what I can offer a lot, and I can tailor, what people want and need, and that's why I created my studios. So everything is there, you want piano lessons today, or you want to do a flute thing, or go back to voice, so you want to learn about Tibetan bowls, and just like being able to offer that play shop for people that come in. It's been really, really fun. It's like an evolution of my teaching too. So the sound healing has been an evolution of my art, and then but also in how I want to work with people as well. And then with the group sessions, I do a lot of sound meditations all over LA, and I do a lot of the vocal toning also with them, call and response singing, some mantras, medicine songs, and so many beginners come through, and some beginners meaning like they're new to sound healing, like every single session, at least 2, 3, 5, 6 people. It's their first sound bath. Nice. And they really get an idea of like, okay, what is this world about? And I think doing the vocal practice beforehand, just like you do the breath work and the toning also, really gives people a chance to like focus in and arrive in the space, and to not just be quiet and like kind of feel weird and uncomfortable, like what are we going to do here? What does this sound? Voodoo, but to immediately be called in to, create together. Be a part of the sound current and sound fabric. Right. Then when they lay down, they've already like kind of initiated into that and understanding, what it's like to make sound in this way, and then they can receive also.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece of this, in LA anyways, sound baths are getting very popular. But most people have no idea what a sound bath is, like in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
Just so for those of you that don't know what a sound bath is, it's basically going to a venue, a space, and laying down and receiving healing sounds. And that can be from so many different kinds of instruments, like the bowls, Tibetan bowls, there's crystal bowls, Native American flutes, shakers, gongs, like there's just so many. And like Lynda mentioned, more and more are being created every day specifically for that usage.
Right.
And what Lynda and I are both passionate about is also teaching people how to use their voice as a sound healing instrument, which a lot of sound baths don't do that. You'll just go lay down and receive, which is great. It can be very relaxing. But when you start to learn how to use your own voice, you can take that into your everyday, and you learn a practice that you can go home with to then incorporate into your own life as a sound healing tool.
Right.
And I think that I would love to see more of that happening in the sound baths.
Right.
Simple things like humming, like you mentioned, it's so powerful.
And I'm really just sticking with the simplest things because I have so many new people, so it's like when I learn about humming, it seems like, oh, humming, but it's so profound when you do it with the intention to center yourself and ground yourself.
Yeah.
And so Pat Moffat-Cook, who had brought that into the program, she's up in Seattle. She does all kinds of work and has a PhD, and she's like, just hum for 10 minutes a day and it'll change your life. It's for people that don't, they can't meditate in silence. They're just not there yet. I was there in my 20s. I have a story about that where I couldn't sit for more than 2 minutes. I had to leave. That was the beginning, right? Because if the thoughts are like unbelievable, like just dealing with this on a daily basis and finding peace. So, I've had a lot of people tell me just from even the introduction, like the humming or doing an ah sound is my favorite. Ah is the sound for the heart and dropping into the heart, or an E sound or an O sound for Om. I had people tell me it's gotten through traffic jams and long drives where you think you're going to lose it, but you got to release that energy has to go somewhere.
Right.
And how do we take that energy of tension, frustration, anger, grief, sadness, whatever it is, whatever we flipped into, and to change that,
totally.
To shift that, to actually, make it a positive. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's hard. There's so much that we deal with all the time.
Yeah.
But simple practices. I have my tuning fork too. I'll just be in the car. I'll put my auto tuning fork on my third eye or my heart, and just take a nice deep breaths, and making that sound, like being aware of your sigh.
Yeah.
The sigh is one of the most powerful breaths we have.
Mm-hmm.
I notice it every time when I tell people to sigh, and I sigh myself. My entire back, my shoulder blades, my entire back muscles, I feel like they drop 2 inches.
Right.
I, wow. Like to be aware of that is so important. And then from there, you know, making that, letting it out. When I studied with Sylvia, she would talk about how, you know, she was combining psychotherapy and sound and working with people. We talk about like meeting people where they are in their energy, and then trying to shift that through the sound exercises and movement. And you know, so if somebody comes in agitated, you have to kind of meet them there, and then slowly help them unwind that, you know, through sound making, through movement, through you know, you know, meditative practices of all kinds. But I thought that was an interesting thing too.
That's
that, you know, holding space for someone also means acknowledging, meeting them where they are, you know, and then helping them unwind it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and my teacher was Wayne Perry, and he talks a lot about the different kinds of sound that we make, and like the releasing sounds, you know, like you mentioned, where you just got to get it out, you know, like just, and we do it naturally a lot of the times when we're like, when we get hurt or something, like we scream or we're like, ow, or, you know, it's just like getting it out. And since I've learned just that little bit of information of, you know, what is useful, now I do that all the time. Like when I feel like I got like startled or I'm frustrated or just this any sort of energy in my body that I like don't like and that I don't want, I'll just like make sounds and just like get it out and just allow whatever to come out. And it immediately brings you back to center.
Yes.
You know, it's like the fastest, easiest tool, you know, that all of us can make sound, well, most of us. And it's so easy and it's free. It's just like, just that little bit of knowledge, you know, of using the tools that we have of our sounds. And it really does help me throughout my day stay so much more calm and centered and peaceful. And yeah, it's a fun world, you know, of exploring.
I've been obsessed with it since day one, and everything I've discovered in it, the people I've met, the adventures I've been on over the years, you know, it's it's a very enriching life path where you learn a lot. You know, you learn a lot about people and about yourself, and you evolve, and you create, you kind of present the world with what you're experiencing, you know, through your own, you know, your own experience, and we share that. And so getting people more in tune with that, with their own artistry and creativity, that it's not just for people that are like, you know, famous people or more accomplished people, but it is actually community-based music making is so important. That people that there's very simple like ways to start making sound. Like everyone should have like a living room full of instruments to play, you know. Like get rid of the TV, like and let's play, you know. Let's create. And so I see, you know, with the right amount of time, that becoming more and more important, you know, bringing people into the music making process.
And I'd love for us to share, you know, some ways for people to start doing that now. You know, you've already mentioned like humming, which is a great one, and or toning a vowel sound, which toning just means making a sound. So yeah, just doing an ah or o or whatever vowel, like you can start playing with the different ones. And if you're interested, you can dive deeper into learning more about like what the vowels can support you with and what they correlate with as far as like chakras and energy centers. But what are some other things you think that would be easy access points?
Well, there's the breaths, right? And you do the breath work. The breaths that I really like to do in my sessions, there's some main ones. Like first is the sigh. So you just concentrating and take a deep belly breath in and sigh. It's amazing. I just feel my entire like body just go.
Yeah.
And doing that 2 or 3 times, and there's a release of like a kind of sound also. So you're pushing the air a little bit out. It's a very intentional sigh, audible sigh. We make our energy audible. It helps to move things even more. I like the S sound. There's this a technique and a practice called the 6 healing sounds for the organs by Mantak Chia. And that's a very cool practice. And so I've taken a couple of my favorite audible breaths from that practice. One is the S sound. So S in that modality is for, it's associated with the lungs for releasing grief and loss and depression. So with this organ, because we talk about chakras a lot and chakras, but we don't talk about our organs and the other things in our body that are physical things where we store emotions and energy. Right? So with the S sound, it's very simple. You take a deep breath in and then and you let that go, right? As long as you can. There is a little bit of tension there in the mouth as you're letting that S sound out. You just imagine like those feelings, the things that are seemingly stuck or in a pattern in your body, just going out through that sound into the earth, right? It's like we're cycling back that energy that's not, that you're trying to evolve out of. And then the one for the liver is liver is where we store a lot of anger and frustration. And we use SH sound for that, which SH is like the beginning of another word that we use when we are angry. I mean, it all kind of correlates. But this one it's a little bit looser, but again, it's just you're taking a deep breath in. Sometimes if you want to just pay attention, like probably put the intention of like whatever organ that you're trying to release from, and you can give yourself a little bit of self Reiki, right? It's like, energy healing. And so you're circulating your own energy back into your body and then releasing what is not working from that space. And you're breathing in. Yeah, exactly. And then the other one that I learned from Sylvia that's great is what she calls the supro breath, and people love doing this in my sessions. This one's a quick release, SHOO. So it's a quick, so buildup happens, release it immediately. I encourage people in my sound baths to use those breaths, whatever one feels good, because in the sounds will also bring things up, anxieties and emotions, and don't sit there with holding a breath, right? You gotta let that go. And then I recently found out from someone that super breath is the way that you say thank you to the plants in the plant medicine world. So if you ever in ceremony and you hear shoo, 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 we're saying thank you to the healing plants, but it doesn't even have to be the plant medicines, but any plants, that are allowing us to breathe and live on this planet, saying thank you.
Yeah.
So those are the breaths that I like to do. Then I go into the humming and the toning after. And if it's a longer workshop or, based on healing voice, more than just a sound bath, then I'll go into calm response singing and mantras, chanting, Sanskrit, and how the meanings of those things tie into different intentions. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some great ones. Yeah, the shoo, that one I use a lot too when just like what I was talking about earlier, as far as like when I make sounds to move energy really quickly,
Mhm.
that's, I feel like, one of the most powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just getting out like in a second.
It helps also when you're the facilitator, you know,
Right.
because you can get in a loop in your head, you know, you can observing people's energy, and you're dealing with a lot of being up there and leading, and breath helps you just clear out those anxieties or those, you know, whatever it is that is preventing you from like communicating effectively. Right, we're always working on that. So like it's like the reset button, the audible reset button.
That'd be a good tool for people that are in places where they're like having to do a speech or be in front of people, or actors, you know, like people that are performing, just, to help. And when you're starting to feel that like excited feeling or that anxiousness.
Yes.
That'd be a great one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think those are some really powerful things for people to start just trying, you know, give it a shot, see how it goes. You know, it's like Lynda mentioned with the sound baths, you know, things can come up to the surface. It does unlock stored emotions, or just energy that's been stored in our organs, or, you know, thoughts that you've been ignoring. All these things can come to the surface for you to pay attention to. I mean, that's the healing aspect of it, you know, sound healing.
Yep.
And so it's just something to be aware of, that when you do start to do these kinds of practices, things may come to the surface for you, like old memories, or you know, things that you've been suppressing and not wanting to pay attention to, and seeing it as an opportunity for you to just be that witness for whatever does come to the surface. And staying with the practice, right, of these different tools, which it is a practice. It's not something that you can just like do once and expect it to be like this miracle thing.
Right.
But that's what I feel like is such a beautiful thing that's happening with the popularity of sound baths. You know, yes, it's very relaxing and it's peaceful and it's, you know, just that for a lot of people.
Yeah. De-stress. A space where they can not have their phone for a minute. Although I've been in sound baths where people are on their phone, you know, once in a while, but most of the time people understand that it's a sacred space to just unplug from the world for a second.
Yeah.
It's like no accident that like the rise of the iPhone and the connectivity, the constant connectivity, has also at the same time fueled the growth of the wellness industry. Because, you know, we need yoga, we actually need safe space to know that we're taking care of ourselves. We actually need help taking care of ourselves.
Right.
Because we're being bombarded by info all the time. I just remember like in the late 2000s, when the iPhone came out, Twitter was blowing up. And whenever there was like some sort of like crisis in the world, or some, you know, natural disaster, or a big world event, it's like the Twitter would blow up, and it's like an obsession to get information all the time, and you're reading all this stuff, or just in general, just like the scrolling and the input of what's going on with people, with the world, and ingesting all of that at once.
Right.
It's like overload. It's like information overload, a stimulation overload, and it makes us mentally go to places that aren't healthy,
right,
in a lot of different aspects. So we need to, it's such an important service that we're doing, to create space. It's not entertainment. It's not just it's not like music entertainment. It's okay, you're here to work on yourself, and just to be with yourself and be okay with that, and not seek the validation or the, you know, or let those outside stimuli, you know, affect your balance. Get back to balance. Okay, we live in this world now. The information is just a benefit, you know, to us also. To share so freely and connect is a wonderful thing, but it can become addictive.
Yeah.
And so then we need those spaces where we kind of like reset and get down with, like, you know, not being letting the stress take over our lives. It's easier said than done, which is why it has to be a consistent thing. And you know, just trusting yourself and your own center, and with through self-care you get there.
Right.
You know, I've always seen you do that in your life, in the different ways that you explore that work for you. You know, which is why you're such a great person that, you know, that holds space, that you're so great at it, right? Because you take care of yourself.
Right.
And that's the key.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to fill your own cup first, as they say,
Yes.
It's like you can't give when you're feeling depleted.
Correct.
So
right.
That I feel like is number one, and anything you can talk about with health and wellness, it's like you got to put yourself 1st. You got to take care of yourself, and that means on all levels.
Yep.
Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and sound is such a great way to work on all of those levels.
Yes.
Even with the physical aspect of it, really does travel into your body, and it can break up that stored energy. And I mean, now that they use sound in surgery,
yes.
to break up masses. I mean, it's a growing field. It's been around. It's ancient.
Yes, right.
Forever. I mean,
right.
That's why there's such powerful songs that we can now learn and use for healing, like with the ragas and the mantras and every religion, has their music that is very healing. And now I think the science is starting to catch up. There's been more studies and things of what's really possible. And I think that's going to continue. I just recently saw a study of where these people went to just a gong bath, and they measured their blood. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And so like more people getting interested in how it's actually affecting our physicality,
Right. Yeah. I think more needs to be done in that area. I think that was a fascinating study. Research is an interesting field because when you make something's trying to prove that something in the more science end of things, there's a lot of hoops for us to jump through.
Yeah.
But everyone can agree that there's something there.
Yeah.
The sound not being invisible. It makes people ask a lot of questions as to what is real and what is not. But I think we are here to be in the mystery of life, not just in the factual science part of life, but to try to figure out how the way those two things, the mysticism and mystery and the what's tangible and proven, those two things continue to dance together to like seek answers, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of create our own reality, and we do that from a space of faith and divine purpose and soul purpose, and then we have to interact with the physical realm of everybody else doing the same thing,
right?
And how all those are different perspectives, and that's where we have so much conflict and evolution, right? So we have to always come back to that space of love, compassion, openness. It's really the only way, honestly. Like, that's what sound teaches us. It's this open network, this framework. There's no words or dogma. There's no it's just the sound is, and so like creating a space and the sounds that fit the intention of what we're trying to do, is a real responsibility,
right?
And I think it's definitely the most exciting area, that is evolving at the moment, and then makes you also think about how the other music that you like, any genre, even heavy metal, right? That's healing for people. It makes you look at it as that type of music speaking to that person. There has to be a reason why, and looking at it from that angle rather than just ingesting the stuff. But there's a feedback mechanism with listening and learning, and through the sound and the music compositions.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yay, it's exciting.
Did we do enough practices? Are we doing something else? Should we have everybody join us in an awe sound?
Okay.
Maybe?
That'd be a good way to close it out too.
Yeah.
And just to feel what it's like for you to make sound if it's new. And also another important piece I like to mention is it's a way of really bringing you completely present. And so a tool for that when you're making sound is that you can feel into your body while you're making the sound, like where are you vibrating? You're going to feel like maybe a little bit of tingling or a vibration happening, even if it's just in your throat because you're making the sound. But that's a great way of really bringing all of your awareness and your attention into the present moment. So maybe play with that while you're doing this, even if you're driving, you can still make sounds.
Yeah. You should. And
it's
you
my
should.
favorite place actually while I'm driving.
Yeah.
To make all kinds of sounds.
For sure. It doesn't have to be, you can be singing along with a song on the radio, but it could be just the ah sound and a bunch of sighs. And the next thing you know, you passed whatever that was, that little hurdle, and you were flying for another minute or two until the next one.
Yeah. Exactly.
So for the ah sound, you can put your hand on your chest, both hands, one hand, and this is just a way to, because ah is associated with the heart, just putting the intention of that sound emanating from there. So the heart has the largest electromagnetic field in the body, and people can feel our heart resonance, heart coherence from, we can broadcasting that, right? Much more powerful than the brain waves. So with that in mind, we'll do an ah together. We're going to breathe in deep and then just sing the vowel. It doesn't really matter the note because we don't have a drone or something, or a note. It's really what feels good to you. You can change the note if you want. If the one you start singing doesn't sound quite right, just put it in the range where it feels good. All right, so let's do that together. So breathe in. Again. And this is supro breath. So a quick release. Ah, good. So we tune into the heart through the vowels, singing it all the way out, and then ending with just a cleansing breath, whatever you'd like to do. And if you do this for 10 minutes, if you have the time, 5 or 10 minutes, just out on every breath, you're doing the ah sound. When you come to a place of rest and silence after you do the singing, that's where the juicy vibes are. You really feel what kind of resonance you've created through the sound in your body and your mind. And I often feel like tingling, as you mentioned, in the hands and feet, right? So you're getting the chi moving in the body and the energy, and it's so simple. That's what I love about it.
Me too.
We don't actually need to go to Gayatri Mantra and all the things that go back to words and syllables. And we can just stick with vowels, breaths as the point to enter into the work.
Yeah, and it's such a great, like, I already feel shifted just from like 2 simple vowels, and like for people that say they don't have time to meditate, it's like, just do that.
Yeah.
That took what, like 20 seconds or something?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Like you have time for that, even if it's on your way to a meeting.
Yep.
You got
it.
It's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. Fun.
Yay.
So I hope everybody tries that.
Yeah. Well, and I will put links below to how anyone can contact Lynda if you're interested in learning more about her offerings, the group sessions, private sessions. Do you work with people remotely at all?
I can. Yeah, over Skype or FaceTime, especially doing stuff like this, we're encouraging, and it's great because I love to hear people's stories about where they come from, and then, design the practices that'll help them the most, so that can be done over online as well.
Cool. Yeah. And then I'll also list Sonic Devas for people that are interested in coming and checking out one of our performances.
Yes.
And just stay in touch. And any last words you want to share?
No, just wanted to bless everyone and find your way through the sound current. Encouraging everyone to jump into this amazing modality.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, one last question.
Yeah.
I usually like to ask all the guests, what are your go-to practices to like shift out of a feeling that you're not wanting to feel? Like if you're in like a funk or you're feeling stuck, like what are your go-to practices?
Movement has been helping me more than that. I mean, I do the toning and like a 10-minute meditation, but sometimes I need to jump on the trampoline, so I'll do that.
Nice.
And a brisk walk.
Yeah.
A brisk walk will shift it. Sometimes the walk can be in silence because really the funk it's happening up here. So listening to music distracts from actually accepting that feeling. And so sometimes it's a walk with, silent walk, right?
Nice.
Getting the body moving, doing the breaths and the toning like we've done. And other times it's just laying in a restorative yoga pose and doing the toning from there. Combining, we didn't really talk about this too much. We talked about sound mostly, but combining the movement or the yoga pose or the stretching with the sound can also help to shift out of a funk too. So I use that a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Ashley.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Thanks again for taking the time to listen to this conversation, and please be sure to reach out to Lynda. I will list all of her contact information in the show notes, as well as the website for Sonic Devas if you're interested in seeing when our next performance is. And I'm actually going to close out this episode by playing some music from Lynda and one of her collaborators, Torquem G, who I also have on this podcast in an earlier episode if you want to check that out. They're in a group called Solar Theory, and it's really beautiful music, and we're just going to close out with about a minute of one of their songs called Clear, Blue, Green.